This is part 4 of section 6.1. We're going to talk about some of the applications of right-angled trigonometry. So let's look at an example. An 18-foot ladder is resting against the wall of a building in such of a way that the top of the ladder is 14 feet above the ground. How far is the foot of the ladder from the base of the building? So let's draw a picture. So we have a ground, we have a building, and we assume that they meet in a right angle. We have a ladder leaning up against the building. We know that the ladder is 18 feet long, and the top of the ladder is 14 feet up. We are asked to find that distance. This is simply the Pythagorean Theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, so we end up with 14 squared is 196 equals 324. So x squared is equal to 128. And x is equal to the square root of 128, which is 8 times the square root of 2. Okay, and on this particular problem, they ask you to round to the nearest foot. So get an approximation of this, and it's about 11 feet away from the wall. Sal and his friend are on opposite sides of a river. To find the width of the river, each of them hammered a stake on his bank of the river in such a way that the distance between the two stakes approximates the width of the river. Sal walks 10 feet away from his stake along the river and finds that the line of sight from his new position to his friend's stake across the river and the line of sight to his own stake form a 75-degree angle. How wide is the river? The most important thing here is to get a picture drawn. So we have banks of the river. Pull here, distance, that's what we're looking for, the width of the river. Okay? So Sal walks 10 feet away and then measures this angle. That angle is 75 degrees. And we want to find this. And that's a right triangle. So now we just need to figure out the relationship between these two and this angle. Well, what compares opposite and adjacent? That would be tangent. So tangent of 75 degrees will equal x over 10. So the width of the river should be 10 times tangent of 75 degrees. And that gives you, you're supposed to round to the nearest foot. And if you plug that into your calculators, you will find that it is approximately 37 feet wide. Okay? Now, another type of problem, they'll talk about angles of elevation and angles of depression. And we use these a lot to figure out the height of a building or how high an airplane is or something like that. And these two pictures help you see the angle that they're talking about. You know, if you're on the ground and you're looking up, the angle you have to look up from the ground, that's the angle of elevation. Whereas if you're on top of a building and you want to know how far you look down, it's how far, what's the angle based on your horizon. Okay? So let's look at a problem. The angle of elevation from a rowboat moored 75 feet from a cliff is 73.8 degrees. Find the height of the cliff to the nearest foot. Okay, so if this is my cliff and 75 feet away, I have a boat, and the angle of elevation, that angle is 73.8 degrees. We want to find the height of the cliff, which is right there. So what is the relationship between this angle and these two sides? Well, these are opposite and adjacent, so I'm going to use tangent. Tangent of 73.8 degrees is equal to x over 75. So the height of that cliff should be 75 times tangent of 73.8 degrees. And that calculation gives you approximately 258 feet. So the cliff is approximately 258 feet tall. Okay, last problem. A security camera is to be installed 40 feet away from the center of a jewelry counter. The counter is 30 feet long. Through what angle to the nearest degree should the camera rotate so that it scans the entire counter? Okay, so the main triangle is not a right triangle. What they want you to recognize is that you can split this main triangle up into two right angles. If this is 30 feet and this is across from the center of it, then that makes a right angle, and it splits the difference here. It's 15. I know that this side is 40, and this angle right here, I can calculate. And this angle, let's call it alpha for a second. And let's call this one beta. Well, alpha and beta are going to be equal. And if you add them together, they're going to equal theta. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate alpha and then double it. This is 40 and this is 15. Okay, now we are given an opposite and an adjacent, so I'm going to use tangent. Tangent of alpha is 15 over 40, which is 7/8. No, sorry, 3/8. I can't read. 3/8. All right, so inverse tangent of 3/8 will give me my alpha value, and it is approximately 20.556 degrees. Okay, and so theta is going to be 2 alphas, so multiply that by 2. 20.556 times 2 is approximately 41.112 degrees. And they ask you to round it to the nearest hundredth, so they will be looking for 41.11 degrees here.